Welcome to KFUG Community Radio, 101.1 FM, and streaming online at kfugradio.org. You've tuned into News Now, a co-production of KFUG Community Radio and Wild Rivers Outpost. We're going to tell you about some local news, now. For KFUG Community Radio, I'm Avi Kritz.
And I'm Kobe Persephone Rose. Roger Bonestab, the pastor of Crescent City Foursquare Church, gave thanks to Del Norte County's annual Thanksgiving Day celebration. Before opening the doors to the main building at the Del Norte County Fairgrounds on Thursday, Bonestab thanked partner Sutter Coast Hospital and other volunteers who pitched in to serve turkey, stuffing, and pumpkin pie to the community. He also thanked Pacific Power for the work their crews have done to ensure the community had electricity after Tuesday's storm. Volunteers served 620 meals last year. This year, Bonestab said, 120 volunteers were prepared to serve between 750 and 800 meals. Local elected officials worked alongside teachers, the county chief of probation, and other Del Norters to dish out turkey, stuffing, green beans, and cranberry sauce. Rusty Hurd, Nita Morgan, Jenny Hissong, and others set out pumpkin pie wedges. Elijah Brunson wheeled out around a cart with juice, milk, and coffee. "It's fun for me," he said. "It means a lot. There are no titles. It's just people coming together for a common cause." Brunson, who attends Pelican Bay Evangelical Free Church, said volunteering was important for him, especially in a community like Del Norte County. Not only does this bring a cross-section of people together to break bread, he said, many appreciate the chance to not only eat at the fairgrounds with their friends, they're also grateful for the plate of food they'll take with them for later. Many people don't know where their next meal is coming from, Brunson said. People really appreciate it. Fortunately, this Thanksgiving, 1,150 of those next meals were served, nearly twice as many as last year.
This past Tuesday, Del Norte experienced the full force of a bomb cyclone, which included winds up to 69 miles per hour and heavy rain. The cyclone may also be a historic one, as National Weather Service meteorologist Brad Charbonneau told the Outpost. The barometric pressure in Crescent City dropped to a low of 973 millibars, which is the lowest in California history, Charbonneau said. The high winds and rain resulted in downed power lines, major power outages for many Del Norte residents, and increased traffic hazards. We spoke with Del Norte County Emergency Services Manager Kymmie Scott about how the past week's storm has affected the county, as well as how the county has responded to it.
Kymmie Scott, Emergency Service Manager, Del Norte County. You had a lot to manage last week, true?
True.
So talk to us about the bomb cyclone. What was the aftermath? How did that? What sort of state did it leave Del Norte County in?
You know, it could have been a lot worse. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we lost a lot of trees, some power outages. It seems like there's quite a few folks, actually, who, when the power came back on, it did fry some things for them.
Yep.
And you know that you're experiencing some of that, and you're not the only one. However, because we hadn't received a lot of rain yet in the season, those strong winds didn't produce the kind of damage that they easily could have.
Oh, because the ground would be wet and knock more things over?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was kind of a unique storm in that about halfway through it shifted direction. Mm-hmm. And so the wind blew from a different direction than we normally see here. And so that did create some damage that we wouldn't normally see. I don't know if you've been down to Beachfront Park, but usually in the large storms, we lose a couple of trees, right? And you usually see they get blown over and you have the root ball that comes up. This storm straight broke some trees in half and just snapped them like toothpicks. So that was pretty impressive.
You got to give it to Mother Nature sometimes. Like, right on.
Right.
I noticed that watching like the video from the CHP office with the roof coming off of Ace, and yeah, it didn't just blow off and keep going. It kind of swirled around, and that kind of really was. And have you seen the satellite? I imagine you must have seen the satellite picture then of our.
Oh,
curly
absolutely.
Q.
Yeah. Kind of looked like a hurricane, and we actually saw hurricane force winds off the coast, Category 2.
Wow.
So thankfully they weren't that strong once they actually got to us, but still pretty significant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what sort of stress does a situation like this put? Was this your first emergency?
No.
Okay.
No, I've been through a couple of strange things since I started in May. I'm getting a bit of a reputation as being the one that like attracts the strange emergencies.
Oh, no.
So, yeah. So I mean, we had an incident out at Pelican Bay, there was raisin delivered out there actually, and so there was some our public health.
I was out there that day. I got locked down when that happened.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so you would have to deal with that. Yeah, exactly.
Participated in that. Addie Meadham house caught on fire here over for Halloween, and so we did the sheltering for that. And so I've played a little bit here and there, but for something like this, it's obviously it's not Del Norte's first rodeo when it comes to big storms. And so sort of what one of the main roles for my department when something like this is happening is information. And so the public sees information from us like on social media or through the radio stations, just kind of getting them updates on what the storm's expected to do, preparedness tips, safety measures, that sort of thing. What the public doesn't see is on the backside, we're doing partner briefs. And so we get together, for instance, with like the city, the tribes, public works departments, fire, law, EMS, and just create conduits for information sharing. We get our partners from the Weather Service on the line, partners from Pacific Power, kind of see where everybody's staging, what kind of resources are available, matching needs to who's got extra resources. And so just a lot of that, feel kind of like a glorified networker.
And that was sure. It's like you're working the war room or something, sort of coordinating everything. Yeah. So how did it come together after the storm last week as far as coordinating all the... It seems like the county sort of stepped up and took care of itself.
Yeah, the county really did. People around here are pretty good at the storm thing,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And, the public works crews, the road crews, those guys are on it. Our EOC is based out of the fire hall there on Washington Street, and sitting in there watching our wonderful volunteers with the fire department. I mean, really at the intensity of that storm, there were more power lines down and things sparking than we had volunteers, and those guys were just true champions.
Wow.
And as soon as they'd get done with one call, they'd get dispatched to another. And
And out there in it, too.
Yeah, they're out there in it.
Yeah.
And so that was something that was a little bit different for us. Usually when we activate our emergency operations center, we've got, we've got county and city personnel that work in there, but we also have a number of volunteers that work in there. And we usually call those folks in for something like this. But this storm was so severe, sort of at the height of it there, that we didn't want people traveling at all.
Right.
And even the people that work in the EOC. So we just had a small core team of us. Just kind of keeping things tied down over there.
Wow. So looking ahead, because this won't be, you said this isn't our first rodeo, it's not going to be our last either.
Absolutely not. Right.
What can Del Norters do to be prepared for the next one?
It all depends sort of where you're located and what sort of networks you have personally. So one important thing is networking. We always talk, when we talk preparedness, we're always shoving the preparedness tips down your throat and like, buy this weather radio, make sure you have a headlamp, those sort of things. But I think that it's a good time to sort of underscore the importance of building relationships in your community and especially in your neighborhood. If you haven't gotten around to meet your neighbors, maybe bake some cookies and go shake their hand, because when things are really bad around here, we have to rely on one another. I talked about, our volunteers with the fire department, and that's the thing, right, is our fire department is volunteers, our police force is small, our ambulance force is small, we're a rural town that's kind of isolated, and so we can quickly get overwhelmed. And so having those connections, and if the power's out and you got a wood stove and you know that the elderly neighbor next door to you doesn't, go invite them over for a cup of hot chocolate, right? And then the other thing that people can do to prepare is knowledge. And so we do training twice a year called CERT training. You probably have heard of it. It stands for Community Emergency Response Team. And so that's free. It's put on by the county. Not only is it free, you walk out of there with a backpack full of goodies, but you also walk out of there with a head full of knowledge. And so there's basic disaster medical in there, there's basic search and rescue, extrication, basic firefighting. So really just those things that in the heat of the moment, if first responders are overwhelmed and your neighborhood, let's say that a major storm blows through, being able to know how to go turn your utilities off, how to save somebody, in the moment and help support them until first responders can get there. And so those are the sort of things that are free. They don't cost you anything. They don't weigh anything. They don't take up room in your house. And they're extremely valuable.
They could save your life, or the lives of somebody you love.
Absolutely.
Next CERT training, do you know off the top of your head when that's happening?
Next CERT training, I can pull it up real quick. It's going to be in April. And hold on a second here.
So that almost seems like something that should be offered in school for everybody, you know?
So we are actually working on that.
Really?
So yeah,
Good.
so we've had some conversations with the school district, and superintendent's very supportive of it. So it's going to kick off in the high school this year, sort of in the health, I forget what the program is that they, anyways, it's like in the health section.
Excellent.
But the plan is to eventually graduate all of our seniors with CERT training.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah. Let's see here, 24th, 25th, and 26th of April is going to be the next CERT class. And
is that an all-day thing for folks who you could clear your calendar for that?
It's an all-day thing. So in the spring, we're going to do this sort of intense 3-day training, and then in the fall, we'll do the extended a couple of hours a night, a couple of nights a week over the course of a few weeks, so that people can pick what suits their schedule better. But CERT classes meet, I think it's the third Monday of every month at 6 p.m. at the fire hall, and you don't have to have gone through CERT training to go be part of the CERT team. Wow. And so they do training once a month. And they help assist, like with when we did the Addie Needham evacuation, they helped with the sheltering.
Oh, wow.
So they helped with setup, they helped just take care of people. And so I'm in Department of One. And so the volunteers that do this stuff they're my heroes. I couldn't do this stuff without them. So,
is there anything that we didn't touch upon that you'd like to mention?
Absolutely. So March 21st, we're going to have the first of what we hope to be an annual preparedness fair at the Cultural Center. That's a Saturday. It'll be an all-day event, all hazards focus, and so we'll have lots of hands-on activities. We're going to have all of our different first responder, volunteer, healthcare groups there. We're going to have subject matter experts from all over the state. We're going to have giveaways. We're going to do tsunami walking tours. And sort of the big focus of this one is we're going to have new tsunami maps. So,
new tsunami
maps. So the state's just done the modeling, as we go through time, science gets better, and so like
different run-up zone kind of thing? Or?
Yeah,
okay.
The run-up zone is going to change a little bit. And
are we safe all of a sudden? Did they change it so that we won't have to bug out?
No, that's not going to happen. Sorry.
All right, darn.
But so we're planning a whole community-wide tsunami drill and evacuation in October of next year. And so March is kind of the 6th month before that kickoff. And so we'll start educating people on the new maps. There'll be lots of communication, outreach, and education through the summer. And part of that is we're planning on getting around and doing block parties. And so we get in all the different neighborhoods, and people can map their neighborhoods, meet their neighbors, see what sort of capabilities exist there in their hood. So
wow, so even if there are no other emergencies for you to manage, it's going to be a busy year for you then, huh?
Yes, it's going to be a very busy year. That's the way I like it.
Is that the thing that keeps you moving? Good. Well, Kymmie Scott, Emergency Services Manager for Delaware County, thanks for coming in and talking with us today.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Local activist Jermaine Brubaker was on hand in Salem the week before Thanksgiving, taking part in a protest at the state capitol concerning the proposed Jordan Cove natural gas pipeline. The Jordan Cove LNG pipeline is 36 inches in diameter and will transport natural gas roughly 229 miles from the Ruby Pipeline and Gas Transmission Northwest Pipeline near Malin, Oregon, to an LNG terminal at the port of Coos Bay. Environmental activists, as well as family ranchers along the pipeline's proposed route, are asking Oregon Governor Kate Brown to halt the pipeline's construction, citing concerns regarding clear-cutting, pollution, and possible fire danger. We spoke with Jermaine recently about her experience at the protest, as well as why we should all be concerned.
Jermaine Brubaker, you went up to Salem. It's been, 2 weeks now? What date were you up there for that?
It was last Thursday.
So a week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, a week before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, time is its own.
And just last week was crazy enough anyway. Just cut that
Throw
off.
the holiday in there. I don't know what day it is.
So talk to us about the trip. Who went up there with you from Delaware County?
So the folks that came up, brought Anna Joseph with me and Crystal Helton. Crystal actually emceed the rally itself.
Of course she did.
Yeah.
She could do that.
She's got the energy to get that crowd going. There was 1,000 people that showed up. So, and then we were repping Del Norte and the upriver regions of the Hoopa tribe, Karuk tribe, and Orleans, Witchpike, Yurok tribe to talk about this Jordan Cove pipeline that's going to be happening.
What are the concerns with
we're going to stop.
There you go. Yeah, that's it. You gotta, no, it's not gonna happen. So what are the community's concerns about? 200 and plus miles of natural gas pipeline.
Almost 300 miles of natural gas pipeline crossing over 500 waterways.
I can't imagine what the concern would be, but please,
including the headwaters of the Klamath River. Wow. So if there was to be, if they were to install this pipeline, there's damage that would happen with just the installation of the pipeline as well. So it's getting to the point right now where the path is fairly cleared in the federal permitting with all the rollbacks that have happened, kind of in order to pave the way for this, actually. This is kind of a pet project of the Trump administration. So
is it really? Does it have their attention?
He's really trying to push pipelines and get this. And this one's an example.
Right.
This is the one that's in the process and has been held up by the FERC board twice. It's been denied twice over the last 15 years.
Wow. And why? What concerns? What did they use?
There's a ton of environmental concerns.
Sure.
There's a laundry list, including the fact, like for us locally, some of the big ones are the fact that it would cross the Klamath River, that the drilling of it would release drilling fluid into an already, a river that already needs our help, and it would also warm the water. So the pipeline would warm the water even more. So the clear cutting and the things that need to happen in order to install this pipeline are going to be doing damage to that river that we've been spending a lot of time to correct.
Right.
And we're finally getting these dams out. We don't need a pipeline now, right?
So why go to Bend instead of Washington, D.C.? Well,
the decision really right now is in the hands of Governor Brown of Oregon, not our former Governor Brown, but the Kate Brown of Oregon, because these federal guidelines have been being pushed through. The state is the last stop point,
right,
in order to get these permits stopped. So we really need Governor Brown to come out and say, we don't support this pipeline in Oregon. She ran on a green platform.
Right. She's been to the mouth of the Klamath and everything, right? So why do you have to go and convince?
She refuses to come out against the pipeline directly. She says, we'll deal with it in state permit processes. She keeps saying things like due process and buzzwords like that. Wow. Everyone needs their fair chance. Your communities are divided. You need to get on the same page. Things like that. So she actually came. She did a phone call to when folks were locked down in her office. She refused to come out against LNG. People refused to leave because that's what we were there for. We want her to say, no, we're not going to let this pipeline go through.
Right.
We'll stop this.
So tell us about your experience then going up with a group of other Del Norters to Bend and taking part in this.
Yeah, it was actually Salem.
I'm sorry. I keep saying Bend because it was in the... I don't even know what the...
You don't know what the state capital of Oregon is? What?
It's all just... It's up there
You're such
somewhere.
a Californian.
Exactly. I don't care about anybody else. All right, so Salem.
Yeah, Salem. So what we did... there was a few different groups. I was part of the planning group for this rally piece, where we invited... It was people from Hoopa to Portland showed up. Over 1,000 people showed up to rally against this pipeline. So, and then there was a faction that decided to do an action as a part of this.
Ooh.
So there was the rally, and then there was the action. So the action, after the rally was ended, 10 people went into the governor's office and took up that space. She was not there that day. And it was ordered to get her to come out against the pipeline. She did not... She was out of the office that day. So up to 75 people ended up in the office and stayed until after the building had closed.
Wow.
So they were there for 9 hours. And she finally came down from Eugene. I think she had been in Eugene. Do you remember? Yeah. I'm getting nods from the people behind me. Yes, it was Eugene.
You used Lifeline.
Yes. Where did she come from? And came in with her bodyguards. It was pretty... And I don't know if you've know what Governor Brown looks like. She's a very small woman. Yeah. So she has very big bodyguards. But came down and talked to us, and she gave us 10 minutes. She said, you have 10 minutes.
Did she have anything to say about why you were there, or was it just to get out of my office?
It was basically, I'm here. What do you want? And then she came up again with the due process, states permitting process. We'll fight it with the permits, but we got to go through due process. And she, a lot of I hear you, I appreciate your passion.
Did you
lot of politics speak.
Feel sort of put off at the
same? 100%. Everyone in that room did.
Wow.
And then, and she was talking about her Green New Deal, which includes cap and trade, and that's a whole nother issue that we got to work on. She's out visiting reservations right now, trying to get them on board with cap and trade. So.
That's a hard thing to do in Oregon, right? I mean, cap and trade is popular where it's all blue on the map, but the rest of the state, it's not.
Let's hope it stays that way, because it's not a good. It's a false solution.
Okay.
Yeah, it's another false solution. So this fracked gas, people are saying this will help reduce greenhouse gas emission. It's not. And it's a Canadian company sending gas to Asia. So it's not even, we don't have skin in the game, but it's affecting our environment, and it's continuing to build greenhouse gases. And they are set, if this pipeline goes in, they will be the largest carbon polluter in Oregon.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And this terminal is in Coos Bay. Coos Bay is our neighbor, right? So it's this big fracked gas terminal, and the pipeline's going to go under the oyster beds in Coos Bay, which is the largest producer of oysters in Oregon. It's going to disturb that and mess that up. And so imagine our beautiful harbor, right?
Right.
As beautiful as it is, right? But Coos Bay really has a really nice harbor, really nice. It's going to go smack in the middle of that harbor. This giant building. It's going to affect commercial fishing. It's going to affect the water. It's going to warm the water in that bay. So it's going to affect our fishing even more, because we're already dealing with this warm water issue off the coast that's killing our fish, keeping crab season from happening.
Right.
So
a lot of the whale deaths have been attributed to that.
So we're going to warm the water even more with a frack gas pipeline 150 miles up the coast. 150 miles isn't that far. No, these are our neighbors too. And if this permit goes through, they're going to start with foreclosing on people's property with eminent domain. So these are ranches that people have had in their family for years.
Wow.
One woman has done coho restoration on her land, and the pipeline would go right through that stream.
Just privately, she's been restoring coho populations. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so
that's the kind of thing that should be rewarded,
right? Not have a pipeline take over and plow through the creek that you've spent 40 years recovering.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. So, do you get a feel? I mean, I'm trying to figure out. So, 1,000 people show up at the governor's office.
Yeah.
Is this? What's your feel as far as just general population and their acceptance of this? Are people even
I think people
noticing?
don't understand it. Yeah. So you hear about this pipeline, and you're like, oh yeah, pipelines. Those aren't good. I think
Right.
So. Jordan Cove has actually done a big push. They're trying to say this is going to bring jobs to the area, blah, blah, blah. It brings temporary jobs, and it doesn't bring long-term sustaining jobs. Not like green energy would bring to our community, right?
Right. Wow.
But we really need to continue to put that pressure on Governor Brown and call her. Even as a Californian, we can call the Oregon State Governor. This is going to affect our river as well. We have skin in this game. The Klamath River is at stake. I call and write Governor Brown and tell her to stop this pipeline. We need to put more pressure on those who can make those decisions.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Anything you'd like to add? I was going to ask. That's how I was going to go out on this interview.
Governor Brown's phone number.
Oh, hold on. I lost you. Hold on.
All right. You ready? All right. You got me?
Start again. Governor Brown's phone number.
Here is Governor Brown's phone number. And call Governor Brown, Governor Kate Brown, and tell her no Jordan Cove pipeline. And the number is 503-378-4582. So she's the person that can really make the difference at this point. Save those ranchers' lands, save our Klamath River. We got a lot. All the local tribes have come out against this, have written letters against this to the federal government, to all the people that matter. So we're standing behind our indigenous population too, and saying this is something that we're not going to support. This is something we don't want in our community. And thinking about if a fracked gas pipeline leaks, it's not an oil spill. It's a incineration explosion. And it's going through already lands that have been affected by forest fires. It's going to take away people's properties. It's going to take away people's livelihood. It's going to kill fishing. Like, these are all things that we don't need in our communities.
For a Canadian company
to make money out of Asia.
Right. Okay. Well, Jermaine, thank you very much. Are you planning any other actions, anything moving ahead, or are you just still recuperating?
Still recuperating a little bit, but we will continue to be doing campaigns to call Governor Brown. So we'll be on the lookout for more campaigns about this. And every time there's a hearing, show up, write a letter. Mm-hmm. Those are things that really do help. It doesn't seem like your story or your connection to the Klamath River, telling that story would make a difference, but it does. Uh-huh. And it's been holding it off for 15 years, but now because federal regulations are kind of clearing the way, we need to fight even harder at this point.
Is this an issue that you and Crystal with the Climate Alliance will be addressing too?
Oh, yeah. We're going to continue to stay on it. This is one of the important issues that we have with the Del Norte Climate Justice Alliance.
Excellent. Well, then we'd like to have one or both of you in soon just to catch up again on the Climate Alliance and the work. All right. Jermaine Brubaker, thank you very much for coming and talking to us.
Thanks, Paul.
All right.
Logging along the proposed pipeline route is slated to begin February 14th.
Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley, alongside Senator Ron Wyden, introduced the Smith River National Recreation Area Act in the U.S. Senate on November 14th. If approved, it would add 58,000 acres to the existing national recreation area, extending it into Oregon. It would also permanently withdraw the land from new mining claims, especially a recently proposed nickel mine, the senators announced last week. This includes Baldface Creek, Chrome Creek, and other streams that could be affected by a proposed nickel strip mine in the region, according to a joint press release from the senators. If approved, the bill would require the U.S. Forest Service to prepare an updated recreation plan, including preparing a study of the streams, wetlands, and other aquatic habitat areas, according to a joint news release from the senators. Merkley and Wyden also introduced the Southwestern Oregon Watershed and Salmon Act, which protects other streams as well as the North Fork Smith River watershed. In the Senators' news release, Grant Werschkull, co-executive director for the Smith River Alliance, based in Del Norte, said the effort to expand the Smith River NRA, which is National Recreation Area, completes a conservation effort that began when it was founded in 1990. We at KFUG Community News reached out to Werschkull, who had this to say.
How important is this bill currently pending in the U.S. Senate?
I think it's very important. I think you could measure that importance by how strongly our communities here in Curry and Del Norte weighed in during the strip mining threat that, the last several years, there's just so much that went on about that, and people looking at their water supply and going, we do not want that upstream. So, I think it's extremely important, and I, really appreciate Senator Merkley's leadership on this.
How did we get to here? Last I remember, 2015, we had a 20-year ban that was initiated on mining on the North Fork.
Well, that's right. And actually, there was a public comment period, and most of our local agencies and government entities and people all commented on that. And the decision actually didn't occur until I think it was January 2017. It was formally listed. But just as you said, a 20-year temporary withdrawal or mining ban. And what that, we have to be very clear. It is a ban on new mining claims. Mm-hmm. So there can be there are entities that have existing claims that are not validated. This doesn't erase them from the slate.
Oh.
But there is a very arduous validation process that those entities have to go through, and they have to continue to pay and do other paperwork to maintain claims. But what this does is it is a permanent ban on new mining claims.
That's fantastic.
That's right. And the other thing that is important to note is after that temporary ban was put in place, it is absolutely true that the Trump administration and some Congress quite a number of Republican Congress people challenged it. Are they through? We don't know. So I think there was very much a feeling of vulnerability about what was secured, the 20-year temporary ban. So it is all good, and it really validates. You know, we hear reference to our Wild Rivers coast, and in fact, Curry County Commissioner Court Boyce, in his quotes in support of Senator Merkley's proposed legislation, he talks about our Wild Rivers coast and how the North Fork is symbolic really of the types of rivers, you know, from the Rogue and the Elk and the Chetco and the Smith. We have something special here. And this is a way of providing permanent protection to something that is so, so special to us, you know, whether it's looking at it from the drinking water perspective, whether it's looking at it from our important fisheries and travel and tourism. You know, the North Fork Smith is really a symbol of all of that. You know, it's so, I mean, way to go, Senator Merkley. I think, you know, I think he and his staff followed, you know, all the community work through the previous processes, and so I think he saw something that he could potentially do and stepped up.
It's interesting in that we sort of think in Del Norte County, we feel that the Smith is ours, you know, that it's our drinking water. You know, a lot of what happens on the Smith, of course, happens here in Del Norte County, but it's not. It extends so far up into Oregon, the North Fork there. How important is the expansion of the NRA in Oregon for Oregonians?
Well, I think it's very important. And what I loved is there's a press release actually that I forwarded to you from the senator. And that was just a couple weeks ago here, late November. And you've got Court Smith, you know, you've got him, Court Boyce quoted, he's a Curry County Commissioner. You've got David Brock Smith, who is a former county commissioner, and now he's in the Oregon State Legislature. They said it so well about how important it is to them and the Wild Rivers coast and the recreation economy that, you know, people look to and want to strengthen and support. And of course, you know, you also had the national fishing type groups like Trout Unlimited and the commercial fishermen like Pacific Coast Federation of Fishermen's Association. That's the umbrella group for commercial fishermen. So I love that. I love reading that really diversity of support and how it really is. It's just like a page out of that Wild Rivers Coast testimonial.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's so 58,000 acres added to the watershed, and that's primarily around the North Fork?
It is. It's all of that is North Fork drainage area. 58,000 acres is the amount of the watershed that is in Oregon. So just as you said, you know, we think of it, hey, it's ours. Well, hey, guess what? 58,000 acres is in Oregon.
Okay, let me interrupt. Let me understand then. So the NRA, does it currently then not extend into Oregon?
Not at all.
Okay. So and this extends it into Oregon for the first time.
For the first time. And that is why there has been this risk and threat there in the Oregon part of the basin, because it didn't have the NRA. The NRA was, when it was passed in 1990, a mineral withdrawal or a mining ban for any new claims in the NRA. But at that time, there was a congressman in Oregon that did not want it to go into Oregon. And so it stopped at the border. So you have, you know, the watershed actually drains from up in Oregon, but the NRA stopped at the Oregon border. And then that amount of acreage that's in Oregon is the 58,000 acres.
Okay, all right, got it. Wow, that's interesting. So from 1990 and I'm sorry, I spoke over you. What were you going to say, Grant?
No, I was just going to say that, you know, people didn't realize that came with the National Recreation Area when it was passed by the 101st Congress in 1990. The mineral withdrawal, the blocking of new claims. And, depending on how long, people have lived here and watched what's gone on, in the 1980s, there was a strip mine proposed, and it was another kind of international conglomerate. It was known as Cal Nickel, and they had a Canadian base, and their claims were all in the California part, or really aggregated in the California part of the basin. Again, this is in 1980s, and this is before the NRA. And so Gasky Mountain, and there's a stream called Hardscrabble Creek.
Oh my gosh.
Which is, you cross over that when you drive to Gas. Okay.
I've lived along the banks of Hardscrabble Creek. Really? They wanted to strip mine that part?
Yeah. They actually, a dam was proposed on Hardscrabble to create the reserve water supply that was needed for processing and dealing with the ore.
Oh, wow.
And so that was in the 1980s, and it was a really, really big deal. I mean, a lot of effort went into it. And, it was divided in terms of, the community, I think, in some ways. But
well, the 80s were a nasty economic time for Del Norte County, more so than usual, yeah.
Absolutely. But what was interesting is you already did have the Smith recognized, of course, the drinking water, the fisheries, the high water quality. All of those things were very much recognized. And it is true that the state attorney general's office actually joined in the fight against it. The only way that those claims were viable was with a subsidy. And so what was happening is that mining conglomerate was basically lobbying in D.C. to get a subsidy in order to make that entire mine project viable.
Oh, wow.
And so that's where the fight to kill it really went. And so some years, not that many years after that, our congressman, Doug Bosco, then initiated the legislation to create the NRA. That was then done in 1990, but with the exception that the Oregon part of the basin was excluded at the request of that Oregon congressman. His name was Bob Smith.
Wow, okay. That's interesting how all that compromise and thanks for being around and remembering all that for us as a community. That's local history that's important here.
Yeah.
So since 1990, with the institution of the NRA and its problematic, cutoff at the border and all of that, up until today, if this bill passes and the 58,000 acres are added to the NRA in Oregon, does that secure the North Fork then, or are there other, tributaries and things that we need to worry? Does that include all of the watershed?
It includes all of the watershed.
Wow.
So it definitely provides that blockage or prevention, if you will, of new mining claims. What will still remain is certain claims that have already been made that are as of yet unvalidated.
Interesting.
And then that in and of itself is an arduous, can be very expensive process.
The validation process?
Exactly. Okay. Because they have to prove not only there's sufficient ore, but it's economically viable. And so, it's still something that we have to watch, but what it does is it closes the door on new companies kind of adding on. And it also, we do have to remember that the state of Oregon has put in some additional measures that would make it more difficult for mining there. There's an outstanding resource water designation, which links to the Federal Clean Water Act. And then there's another matter that the Oregon Water Resources Commission approved, which basically puts a burden that you are unable to use the water of the Smith for other than drinking water or for the natural things that it's doing presently. Okay. So those things could be challenged, but it is kind of the exception to we're completely in the clear.
Right.
And I think people are really paying attention to it. So I think it's all good. It's all good, and Merkley's to be commended Senator Merkley's to be commended for what he's trying to do.
I mean, definitely. So since 1990, we're talking 29 years now. What's this mean then, if this is passed? And as you said, there are things to keep an eye on down the road, but this sort of takes the immediate existential threat to the Smith kind of off the table. What's this mean for the Smith River Alliance?
Well, it's actually something that back in 1990 we were working on the National Recreation Area legislation, and in some ways you might say, it's one of those things we've always thought should be done. We wanted to have done. Those more recent claims, valid, just really reinforced how important it was, to get that done, and to manage the basin as a one watershed, with a national recreation area. That makes a lot of sense. So it doesn't, because, and you've really been so great to support conversations with us about the restoration work we're doing and the coastal plain. There's projects that we'll be doing in the Elk Creek watershed, which is, kind of the Del Norte and Crescent City more urban stream, which, also has fisheries. There's so many, restoration is so incredibly important, and it's a great place to focus energy and resources. So it doesn't really change where probably a majority of our effort is, but it's just one of these things that's like, yep, we've always wanted to do that, and it's great to see a team be assembled that can advance it.
And it seems like, okay, so it doesn't, you're not going to pack up shop and that's it, the Smith River is saved, right? That's the...
No. It'd be neat if that was the case, but,
right.
I think there's been some great quotes from different conservationists about that. It's like things can get undone and there's always work to do, and it kind of goes with the territory. But, we obviously feel so very grateful to be on a river, be working on a river in a watershed that's of the caliber of the Smith. It's, obviously it's amazing.
Exactly. There's got to be more rewarding. I'm just, I don't know, imagine if you're working on, say, restoring the Sacramento. That's a long uphill slog. But but the Smith River, you're a little closer to perfect right there.
Yeah, that's for sure. Lot fewer people and things to deal with.
Well, Grant, so what can people do? What can Californians do? What can our listeners do to register some support for this bill?
Well, I think that if we don't have it up on our website right now, there is a petition that can be signed in support of Senator Merkley's legislation. And I think, have you interviewed Brad Camden before?
No,
Barefoot Brad out of Gasky. Brad has been circulating a petition for years about protecting the North Fork of the Smith. So I think, expressing support to Senator Merkley and to our elected representatives, and that could be done just by contacting them directly. That could be via phone call or with any of their contact information. And I commit that we'll have a petition up on our website, and I believe I know that we've had one up over the last couple of years, but we may need to revise it slightly so that it really targets what Senator Merkley is leading on. And so people could go to our website, and that's smithriveralliance.org, and sign up on that petition.
I find an action alert. The petition is on smithriveralliance.org. At the top of the tabs across the top, there's Get Involved, and that's the top item on that page that subsequently pops up. So thank you, Grant.
Hey, go team. Thanks for getting the word out.
Right on.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. If it is approved, Merkley and Wyden's legislation would mean a permanent halt to proposed mines in the area, he said. The bill would also add another 75 miles of the watershed and its tributaries to the National Wild and Scenic River System, he said. In a written statement, Curry County Commissioner Court Boyce thanked Merkley for his work on the legislation. The Kalmiopsis Wilderness and Rogue River, Siskiyou National Forest, are recognized as the most diverse, wild, unique, rugged, and beautiful landscapes in North America, Boyce said. This legislation will certainly help and is important for maintaining our pristine rivers and recovering the vibrancy of our salmon and steelhead runs.
And just a quick shout out to congratulate the Del Norte Warriors for the win in the North Section Championship game this past Saturday night. They managed to beat Encinal with a dramatic field goal block in the last few seconds of the game. The Warriors will be traveling to Sunnyvale on Friday to face off against Kings Academy for a chance at a spot in the state bowl games. This is the farthest the Warriors have ever gone in the postseason, and we wish them luck in their upcoming games. Go Warriors!
Thanks again for tuning into News Now. To hear more episodes, check out our website kfugradio.org or our YouTube channel. Special thanks to Wild Rivers Outpost and Jessica Sanar, Crescent City Bureau Chief, for providing great content. Tune in next week to KFUG Community Radio, 101.1 FM, and streaming online at kfugradio.org to hear more from your favorite local radio station.
Support for youth programming here at KFUG Community Radio comes from State Farm Insurance Agent Mary Dorman. Mary's office is located at 490 L Street in Crescent City at the corner of 5th Street and 101 South. You can reach Mary anytime. Give her a call, 707-464-2414, or online at marydorman.com. For all your insurance needs, call State Farm Insurance Agent and KFUG underwriter Mary Dorman.
Today's broadcast is underwritten in part by Green Bicycles, makers of Happy Endings Tea Mix and Ocean Bounty Flower Mix, locally produced, clean green certified plant nutrients. Whether your grow is small or large, indoor or out, Green Bicycles' all-natural, sustainable plant nutrients help ensure your crop's quality from strong roots to fragrant flowers. Green Bicycles, because those in the know. Check out Green Bicycles on Facebook or at greenbicycles.com. That's GREAN bicycles.com. The future of agriculture, right here in Crescent City. Green Bicycles, another proud underwriter of your community radio station.
No one rocks Crescent City like 101.1 FM.